Hey friends, thanks for clicking on this video and joining in on what is an updated sort of version of DIY homemade percussion caps. Now I do recognize, depending on where you live in this country, percussion caps are a little bit more readily available than they are in other areas. The area that I live in, they're few and far in between. Okay, so I still make a quantity of my own homemade percussion caps. And when I'm here on my property shooting my long guns, that's what I mainly use is my homemade percussion caps, because if they don't go off, I don't care, because I'll just put another one on. When I'm at a mountain man rendezvous like it was at Cache La Plew, I mainly used all my homemade percussion caps, and I had a few that didn't go off, which is not a big deal. But if I'm at a mountain man rendezvous and I'm in a timed event, you can bet your bottom dollar I'll be using factory caps, okay? But there's something that I want to share with everybody regarding making homemade percussion caps. And I've mentioned it on this channel before. A really good material to use for your homemade percussion caps is copper sheeting. And you used to be able to get, you know, the copper sheeting. Here's one of the copper caps right here. Relatively cheap, for like a square foot, I think it was, for like about 10 bucks if you could find it. And they mic'd out right about 5 thousandths thick, okay? Obviously the other choice would be aluminum cans. And a standard aluminum can will mic out at about 5 thousandths, okay? And there again, a lot of that depends on what, you know, what your feel is. Somebody might like a little looser feel and say, well, I can get this at 7 thousandths. Oh, it's 4 thousandths. So again, it just depends on what your feel is. But as an average, for me and my feel on a dial caliper, I can get about 5 thousandths, okay? That is actually pretty thin compared to what also is available out there. And if you like to drink Coors beer, and if you buy their cans that are in those little space age bottles that they're necked up and you get those little screw off caps, that aluminum will mic out between 9 and 10 thousandths. It's thicker. And once again, depending on what your personal feel is with a dial caliper. So that's all relative, okay? But for the most part, when I do this, I can get these with a really good feel in thousandths to about 10 thousandths. So they are at best twice as thick as the standard aluminum. So if you can find these, I would recommend you use these for making your percussion caps out of. And a good reason for that is this. And I'll qualify this a little bit differently here in a minute or two. Okay, so here's one of the percussion caps made out of that thicker aluminum. They're a little bit tougher to squeeze, because I know my die is for number 11s, okay? And if I'm going to put one of these on my revolvers, which I don't typically do because of the way I load these, they don't always fit at the top of the nipple in the back wall of the frame on the revolver, okay, the shroud. So I don't typically do that, but for those that want to go that route, it takes a little bit more effort to squeeze these down to fit on a number 10 cone. Whereas the thinner aluminum, which is, these are about to get shit canned, the thinner aluminum squeezes real simply. So if you can get some of those Coors cans that have that space age bottleneck and the twist off caps, that aluminum is thicker. And in my opinion, it's a lot better. Now another route that people can go is to 3D print them, which I think is a great option if you don't have another option. But the problem that I have found with these 3D printed plastic caps is that when they detonate, they tend to shatter more and throw little bits of hot melting plastic, and for me at least, in the top of my cone, that plastic doesn't burn out of that cone. It just melts and it seals off. So it seems like more often than not I have to take my little thin needle and I have to clean out that plastic that remains inside of the cone. Okay, now for me it's pretty simple. You just get a die and you can punch out all the caps you want. And I'm starting on my second container. I got one container already full. I've been working on this for some time, a little bit here, a little bit there. When I get a cool morning, got nothing better to do, I'll come out and I'll punch out 100 of these blank caps. And as you can see, I've still got plenty of the copper ones left. So I'm not without any resources as far as, you know, homemade caps are concerned. Now, I can't speak of right now the recording of this video if these band caps are still available or not. But as you can see, and there was one time when I had this about three-quarter full, so you can appreciate how many caps that I've been going through. So what you see me record and put on my channel isn't even close to what I really do out here in shooting. Okay, I just don't feel like I have to perform in front of the camera every time I go out and shoot. Okay, but I still got plenty of those left, and I have the other variety also, and you can see I've got plenty of these. Now what the difference between these type of caps are, in these red bang caps, there's some of that explosive material glued to a piece of paper. So I will take 2 of those, okay, and I'll demonstrate this here in just a little bit. I will take 2 of those and get them out of the holder. I take an X-Acto knife and just kind of cut across in them and take a pair of tweezers and bend them out, and they usually fall out. Yes, from time to time I'll scratch them and they'll go, but that's not a big issue. I always want to wear eye protection, right? Okay. And then I'll put 2 of those in there face to face. And then I'll take some of my homemade 4F or finer black powder, and I've made a little tool out of a 22 shell. Okay. And I worked it out so that when I dip this into my homemade black powder, half of it will fill up one percussion cap and the other half will fill up the second one, because I actually do 2 at a time. Okay, for the most part. So this works out really good as a dipper for dipping my homemade black powder. And what I'm using now, and as you can see, I've got a ton of it. This is just my juniper. It burns clean and it's been very effective for setting off the main charge. All right. So I don't have a problem with that. Just from time to time I do. And sometimes what that might be, and I've learned to pay more attention to this more recently than I have in times past, but when you get these little bang caps out of here, if you look at the side that's got that igniting material, sometimes it's not fully covering the entire piece of paper. So those, depending on how much is actually there, those I tend to just discard and use the ones that have a full circle of that, you know, that ignition material on it. Okay, so that's what I look for when I do these. Now, and then when I get everything done and that the percussion cap full, then I'll take it and I'll press everything together. And yes, from time to time it goes bang, but the more I use this, the less frequently it happens, just simply because what's being created right here is a dimple on the bottom of this plate. so that when I go ahead and press it, it presses into that little dimple, and there's less likely of it to scratch and ignite. But it still does happen. That's why I wear safety glasses. Okay, now for those that have these, instead of spending another 50 bucks to get, you know, a number 10 die, this is a number 11. I only need the one die because it's simple to resolve that issue. You don't need to buy both of them per se. Okay, if you notice right here, I've got a block of hickory, and one side is number 11s, one side is number 10s. Now, even though this, my die makes number 10, number 11 percussion caps, because I've mic'd everything out, and this is a number 10, I can place that number 10 cup, number 11 cup on top, and I can take a little piece of brass, and I can take that and push it in place like I did right there. So what that's actually doing is it's resizing it to a number 10. Then I'll go ahead and do the same thing, put those two bang caps and fill it up with homemade black powder and compact it. And then when I push it through, it's a little tight, granted, but when I push it through, I have a number 10 cap. Now, I don't typically do this just simply because even with this, I have a little bit of an issue of clearance between the back wall of the frame and the top of the nipple. Okay, so once again, I mainly use these in my long guns. All right. Now, when it comes to this type of bang caps, the ones that have got these little blue coverings on them, you take off the covering. I do the same thing. I cut a little X in them, and I look at them, and if it's got, let me pull this little piece of paper out here real quick and look, because it's perfect for what I'm demonstrating. It moved back in. Okay, camera's not going to pick it up. But on the bottom of that cap, there is a pink colored substance. Okay? And like the bang caps, there's not always, you know, a full cap of it. Some of it might be half full, you might get just a little tiny bit. So I work out 3 of those. And then I compress them into the cap. And it works, and be honest with you, I think it works a little bit better than what the 2 bang caps and the black powder does. But that's just my observing this over a length of time. In fact, now that I look at this, if you look at the 2 that don't have the paper in them, there's no compound in those at all. So, you know, you do end up getting some of these that don't have a compound in them. Now, mixed in here is another bang cap that has a white powdery substance also that also goes off, but it has been my experience, even using 3 of those combined, there is not hot burning as the pink stuff is. So when I open these up and I see that white compound, I just throw it away. And I know somebody in the comment section sooner or later, well, that's all I use and I don't have any problems. Fine, I'm glad you don't have any problems. But it's been my experience with it, I have issues with it. So I stay away from it. Okay? I stay away from it. So, let me just get resituated here, and I'll kind of demonstrate what I do. And in particular, again, I want to emphasize, if you can find those space age coarse cans with the bottleneck and the twist cap, this aluminum is between 9 to 10 thousandths thick. It's twice as thick as your regular aluminum cans. Okay, so I would definitely recommend going to these just because they are thicker and they're a little bit stronger. Alright, let me get repositioned here and I'll kind of show you how I do all of this. So as you can see, I actually got two different plates that I use. This one's a little bit thinner than what this one is. So when I put the caps in here, they sit a little bit deeper than I would like, which is fine, but I've thinned this one down so that when I put the percussion cap into the plate and push it down, it's pretty much flush with the top of the board. Okay, so I've got 4 of those bang caps already taken out, and if I'm gonna, I don't know how well the camera's gonna pick it up, but as I flatten it out a little bit, I can see that most of that compound is glued to the paper. So I just put it in there. If it flips over on me, I just simply knock it out and put it back in. And then I'll take a second one, kind of like lay it flat and get them both in there, and then I'll take my little compression tool and just kind of set them in there a little bit more flat. Okay. And this one here, it's only got about maybe half the compound, but once again, I'm going to use it here. So if it doesn't go off, for me, it's no big deal. And this one here also got about 3/4 of the compound. And then I'll press it down. I'll take my little tool here and fill it up with black powder and dump it in till it goes to the top. Make sure I put the lid back on it, and then what I'll do, let's see here, I got to get my brush. And then what I'll do is I'll just get my brush and just brush away all the extra. Make sure that I have somewhat equal amounts in the percussion cap. Brush those away, set it aside, and then I'll get my press and I'll just press it in. But for this, I'll just explain what I do. I don't just use hand pressure. And you do want to I make sure that my hand is on the back of the board, because otherwise it'll just rock up. Then what I'll do is I'll just put my body weight into compressing this down. And I try very hard not to wiggle it around just in case. So let me get those two done and conclude. Okay, I have them compressed. I'll just take that same tool and I'll just push them through. And then what I'll do is I'll just take and bounce them just a little bit. And the powder that you see falling out is what gets trapped. If you look at these percussion caps, they've got folds in them. This is the powder that gets stuck in the fold and doesn't compress. But I have plenty of powder that's compressed on top of those two bang caps. And you know, once again, you know, you can even go back to the video I just posted here recently, Cash Le Plou 2026, and for 99% of that shooting, it was all my homemade percussion caps, even when I competed with the New Mexico Mountain Men the day prior. So anyhow, I know a lot of you guys do this your own way, but there's also a lot of new people out there that don't have any experience with this and would probably love to know, you know, a better source of aluminum. Those Coors cans, they're thicker, they hold up better. And I know someone is probably going to ask, well, what about that Primol? I don't use Primol because the crap is dirty and it corrodes very, very fast. So I have completely gotten away from Primol. There's another channel out there, Times Gone Tech. He's done a couple videos in the past year with a INAP solution, which I understand works very, very well, does not corrode like what Primol does. But for me, right now, I'm not interested in any of that because, as you can see, I still have plenty of material to work with. Once this is all gone, I will probably swap to that, but as of right now, I don't have any need to do it. So anyhow, I hope on some level this video has helped you think about homemade percussion caps. And once again, I know certain parts of this country, they're a lot easier to get than in other parts. And, you know, there again, if you see a shelf full, buy a few and save a few, because we're all in the same boat when it comes to, you know, factory percussion caps. So anyhow, I hope you find this information once again useful. You'll share it with your bestest of buds. Give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed by now, why bother? Bye.